Hey again, my name is this, and we're still talking about these. Anyway, today I'd like to introduce the first entry in a series I like to call Game Design Corner, or GDC. Wait, hang on. Well, I'll think of a good name for it later. The inner workings of game design and development seem to be shrouded in mystery sometimes. It's not like film. It's not like every game comes with a special disc of bonus materials describing the process. So I thought to myself, hey, we've got a real live game designer with us here. And I figured it'd be fun to get an inside look at the sort of things they spend all day thinking about. Other than industry-wide layoffs, of course. So let's get started. Mr. James Portnow, what have you got for us? All right, thank you. Sit down. Go on. Okay, what do we got here? The problem of choice. All right, this looks interesting. Thanks, James. All right, let's get to it. Let's start by laying down a few basics. Game design is all about designing decisions. As a game designer, you are crafting a series of decisions for a player to make, and that chain of decisions makes up the gameplay experience. This is the core of game design, and it's one of the first things they teach you as a game designer. But what they usually don't teach you is that decisions come in two forms: problems and choices. It's easy to mix the two up. Even veteran game designers will often just use the terms haphazardly, usually referring to every decision as a choice. But they're not the same thing, and this Oh, man, come on, do I have to read this part? Well, it just sounds pretentious. All right. This linguistic confusion is holding back our medium. Because problems and choices are two distinct ideas, and they're both fundamental to the craft of game design. So how are we supposed to define these two words? Here's the simplest way to say it. Problems direct a player towards a goal. Choices let the player choose their goal. Let's have a closer look at these two. First up, problems. Any decision you have to make in a game that has a best answer, or solution, is a problem, not a choice. The easiest examples to spot are the math problems that many games are riddled with. For example, in World of Warcraft, deciding what gear to wear is a problem, not a choice. Why is that? Because for any single objective in World of Warcraft, there is one set of gear that is the absolute best choice for the job. Gear in World of Warcraft is really a big puzzle when you think about it. It's a fun and complicated puzzle, and not one that always has an obvious solution, but a puzzle just the same. Another example, first-person shooter gameplay. It's all about problem solving. There's no free will involved here. You know exactly what your objective is, and choosing to not fight your opponent is not even an option. Pretty much any time the player is presented with a clearly defined goal, and the fun or challenge is in executing or achieving that goal, that's an example of a problem. So then what about choice? Choices are when you're asked to decide between things of equal or incomparable value. Deciding between an apple and an orange, roses or lilies, blue alien sex or the local flavor. These are all choices. Now, real choices tend to be much harder to design than problems, because they don't have a clear right answer. They also tend to be much harder to fit into games because, well, giving players too many options expands the size of the game very quickly. Remember how in some older games a character would ask you a question like, "Do you accept this mission?" And you're kind of an ass, so you chuckle and select no. But then the character just replies, "Har, no really, do you accept this mission?" These games gave you the thin illusion of choice. The designers weren't going to program an entirely different game where you sit around in town all day, sipping coffee and hitting on the local women while reading in the newspaper about what the king's second choice of hero is up to. You see how just one single choice can lead to an immense workload? Choice can complicate things very quickly. And that's why you see way more problem solving in games than you see choice making. Now, this certainly isn't to say that problems are bad by any means. Most games are built on problem solving, and that's kind of how it should be. You'd be hard-pressed to find more than a handful of games that have been made without any problem solving at all. For that matter, there are tons of great games that don't feature a single choice. Problems are really at the heart of what we consider gaming today, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's important that we distinguish them from choices. Now, why does this matter at all? Because without distinguishing between the two, it's very easy to reduce choices to just being simple problems to solve. How many times has a game presented you with something that should be a choice, but instead was just a simple problem with a clear right answer? BioShock gave us a good recent example. What should have been an ambiguous moral choice in that game was reduced to a simple element of larger game problem solving. How? By tying that choice into other gameplay mechanics. Let me show you what I mean. Say you have to decide between an apple and an orange, which we would normally consider a choice. But say you know that an apple is worth $5 and an orange is worth 10, and the goal of the game is to get the most money. Deciding between those two is no longer a choice. It's basic problem solving. This is an issue we often run into with fake choices in games. When you attach rewards to choices that affect gameplay, the choice is often reduced to just being problem solving. Let's say a game offered you a choice. Will you help out this old man or ignore him? And you know the reward for being nice to him is a big stack of money, experience, or ammo, or whatever. But if you ignore him, you'll only get a little of that, if anything at all. That knowledge transforms this choice into a problem, and it's pretty automatic. You simply ask yourself, do I want that reward, or would I rather spend time doing other things? Helping the old man never even enters into the equation. You don't even think about it. And that's because we gamers often place the tangible benefit of solving problems over the more nebulous and work-intensive satisfaction of making a choice. Maybe this is something all people do. Or maybe it's a common trait amongst our kind. This doesn't mean we get more pleasure from solving problems, or that problem solving is a more fun activity. It simply means that reducing choices to problems is one of the easiest ways to approach them. If you give a player that option, that's probably what he's going to do. So again, why does this matter at all? If problem solving is the foundation on which games are built, why make such a fuss over choices anyway? Well, for two reasons. One, a game designer needs to be able to distinguish between these two to use them effectively. When you're building something, it's kind of important to understand the tools and materials you're working with. But there's an even bigger reason than that. I do a lot of talking here about games developing as an artistic medium, and this is another important key to that. In order to be an art, a medium must be able to address the human experience. And there's a huge range of human experiences that are better expressed as choices than problems to be solved. Because in life, a lot of the decisions we make don't have a right answer. Like choosing our career, choosing who to make friends with, what social circles to join. From small questions like, what do I want to wear today, to complex moral dilemmas like, is violence an acceptable means to do good? And isn't a dilemma like that much more compelling when it's a real choice you have to make, rather than a multiple choice question with an obvious answer? As an industry, we're trying to learn how to make our games more compelling. As an art, we're trying to learn how to make our games more expressive. The better game designers understand their tools, the better products they'll be able to create. It's just one more step in pushing games to new heights. And that concludes our first entry of working title. If you guys have enjoyed this look into the process of game design, be sure to let me know. This is definitely something we can do again. And let's hear a big thank you to James for sharing some thoughts on game design with us and giving us a little peek at what his job is about. If any of you have more questions about this topic, or game design in general, feel free to swamp his inbox with your thoughts. You can find his personal email address in the closing credits. If that's alright with him, of course. What's that? Speak up, James. He says it's okay.